you feeling stuck, lost, tired, or uninspired? We've all been there, including myself. I'm Coach Des, mindset motivator and lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm here to tell you that the best, unapologetic, and limitless version of yourself is yet to come. The Born Unbreakable podcast is here to inspire just that. With motivating guests from all different walks of life and around the world, their stories will empower you to unlock abundance and your unbreakable spirit. Do you need accountability? Reach out to me for a free consultation of how I can support you in reaching your maximum potential. This episode is brought to you by Sherpa Way Marketing. Are you a business looking to gain greater visibility online through search engine optimized content? Maybe you need effective ad campaigns to kickstart or bolster traffic to your website. Sherpa Way Marketing has seasoned experts that are bilingual in English and Spanish. Let them take the guesswork away and enhance your brand positioning with their comprehensive marketing services. Go to sherpawaymarketing.com. That's SHERPAWAY marketing.com to schedule your free 45-minute consultation today. Welcome to the Born Unbreakable podcast. This is episode 81 with your host, Coach Des. This is a very special episode. I actually, this really crept up on me. I'll be honest with you. We are celebrating 1 year of the Born Unbreakable podcast. April 21st, 2021 was the very first episode. So in 1 year's time, we're on episode 81, which is incredible. So I decided that today I would do a couple of things. One, reflect on how we got to this moment and appreciate the process. I also want to talk about some of my lessons learned. I thought it would be cool to share some fun stats with you. And then, of course, I want to shout out the people that should be thanked because this has absolutely been a team effort. And of course, I have a couple of call to actions to end with. So, where did this all begin? If you have been with me on this journey for the last year, then you know part of the reason I started this podcast, Born Unbreakable, was because I was parting ways from another podcast. So we have to back up a little bit further. In 2019, I went to a Summit of Greatness conference that was put on by Lewis Howes. He has an amazing podcast called The School of Greatness, and he puts on an annual summit for the last couple of years. It's been virtual because of the pandemic, and I think it's coming back in a couple of months in September. It's in Columbus, Ohio. Anyways, my friend and I, Gina Marie, got together and knew at that time we wanted to start a podcast in the self-development space. So we did. We started recording and branding in 2019 and launched Bliss Beyond F.E.A.R, which stands for Faith, Elevate, Action, Results, at the beginning of 2020 in January. So this was right before the pandemic hit. We started this show and we made it through 69 episodes. If you could believe it. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. It was great having a partner. But you know what? In life, things change. And Gina Marie had other things that she was venturing off to do. She recently got married. I don't know if I've ever congratulated her on my show, but I did go to her wedding back in September of 2021. And she new relationship, new work, new priorities, wanted to get back to her faith. And that left me having to reevaluate and make some different decisions. I knew that I have always wanted to be in the space of self-development. I've ever since third grade, when I signed up to be the class representative in my elementary school, which at the time was Alvarado Elementary School in Union City, California. Back then, I knew I wanted to be a person of service, and that has played out decade after decade. Since I was a little kid up until now, I knew that I wanted to be in the space of learning and growth and development and helping people, whatever that looked like. And so as I've matured, it has become this amazing space of being an executive coach, being a consultant, being a mentor in the corporate world and outside of the corporate world. And being a podcaster has just created another platform to be able to put your voice out there, and more importantly, put other important voices out there for people to get connected with information that makes their life better, more useful, more productive, more exciting, all of that kind of good stuff. So that gave me an opportunity to launch my own solo brand. And Born Unbreakable was very thoughtful, very intentional. I remember writing down over 50 names that I could use for my own brand and for this podcast. And by the time, and Born Unbreakable was late on the list. It was probably number 40 something, maybe 49, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll have to go back to my list and look. I might even have it here in my phone. But as I search for that, I distinctly remember that when it hit me, it really, really did hit me. It made so much sense. It resonated. I remember bouncing it off of other people that I really trust. And it was very important for me to have the message of being unapologetically you. And that is the reason why when you look at my logo, which is in back of me, if you're on YouTube watching this, the B and the U are emphasized. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to that, but now you know. Now you know the creativity. So the B and the U are gray and they're a little bit more bold, because I really want everyone to remember that message, because that is the message of my show, is to be unapologetically you. So I spent time branding, launched my podcast, my website, my services for coaching, and it has been such a tremendous journey. A tremendous journey. And on top of all of that, I moved. So launched the podcast, and then a couple months later moved to Las Vegas, Nevada from the Bay Area, California, where I spent my whole life. Did a couple of years in San Diego when I went to college. And I have to say that everything has just continued to get better and better. And as scary as change is, there is just so much that you learn along the way. Okay, I'll have to get back to you on that whole list of podcast names and such. It'll probably be fun for me to go look at the other names that were on the list. um, Anyways, so moving was a big deal. Starting the podcast was a big deal, and then there were decisions that I had to make about the show. And at one point, at the end of last year, I decided to double production because there were just such great guests that were wanting to come on the show and share their story. And I wasn't expecting to do that, because it's a lot of work to do a podcast. And I doubled production. I think it was in October. And that's the reason that we're at 81 episodes in less than 52 weeks, is because of that production change. And it's the work. I mean, just, when you're listening to the show, just some interesting tidbits, right? You've got to book the guest. So there's all the back and forth to land on a date to do the actual interview. So you're spending time scheduling, and then you have to determine what the content is. And then you have to do the actual interview, which, my episodes are usually about an hour or so. I always like to do a reflection to share my thoughts. And then there's the post-production work that happens to edit the show, publish the show, put it on all the platforms, create media to promote the show, and there's an email newsletter goes out, an Instagram trailer that goes out. So for one episode, that's, easily as, maybe 5-6 hours of work. So twice a week, that's about 12 hours of work for two episodes. And isn't always perfect. There's glitches, there's technical difficulties, there's post-production challenges with audio or video. It's a lot. It's a lot. And for anyone who's a podcaster, it may even be more, right? It could be even more. If you're doing this alone, if you don't have a team, and maybe you are just learning how to do stuff like editing, it could easily take you 10 hours to do one episode to the quality of your liking, because you want to put out a good product so people continue to come back and listen, right? And on top of all of that, podcasts are free. So you don't, just for anyone who's curious, you do not get paid until you get to a point where you have sponsors and you get paid. You create an arrangement, and after you reach a certain number of downloads, then you can start getting paid. So there's a whole process for how that works. But for the most part, anybody who is out there in the world that wants to start a podcast, you're doing this because there's a genuine desire in your heart. There is information that you want to get out to the world, and you're doing it for the purpose of wanting to be a service to the community. And then maybe later on you can benefit from, some profit. Now, having said that, podcasts don't always last very long because of that, all of that work, right, that you're doing from the goodness of your heart. There's a lot of podcasts who within the first 3 to 6 months end. And yeah, because it's a lot. There's actually some interesting statistics that I found in doing some research. This is from Riverside, which is a popular podcasting platform. And they just published this information as of this month. So April 12th, 2022 is when this came out. So just about 2 weeks ago, if that, barely. So interestingly, as of 2020, according to Infinite Dial, 55% of the US population had listened to a podcast ever. 55%. 37% had listened within the last month, and 24% listened within the last week. So, okay, that's the US. Yeah. So about half of the country in the US, which is where I record out of, is a podcast listener. But this is interesting. So globally, the US isn't the highest number of listeners. 58% of the population of South Korea listen to podcasts every month, followed by Spain, Ireland, Sweden, and then the US. So that's pretty interesting. Couple of other fun information facts about podcasts. The 25% of Americans who listened to podcasts in the last week listened to an average of 6 hours and 39 minutes worth. And then 22% of podcast fans listen to over 22 hours of podcasts in a week. That is a tremendous amount of listening. Wow. And then 35% listen to more than 10 different shows per month. That might be fun for you to check out. If you are an avid podcast listener or a new podcast listener, how many shows do you listen to? I listen to a ton of shows, definitely more than 10. I like to diversify. So that just gives you a little bit of a backdrop, of the story. There's a bunch of other fun facts, but the facts that I do want to share, I'll get to. That's specifically about my show because that's why we're here. We're celebrating. But I wanted to hit on some lessons learned. So I picked out 5 things for anybody who is wanting to start something new, whether it's a podcast or maybe it's a side hustle, maybe it's a hobby. You know, I think we sometimes stop ourselves from starting something new because we let perfect be the enemy of progress. Don't let perfect be the enemy of progress. So, lesson number 1 is to just get started. Get started. If you're focused on perfect, you never will. Use the information you have, do your due diligence with whatever it is that you want to get started in. You can ask some people, you can Google information, you can get books. There's so many resources to be able to do what it is you want to do out there. Just do it. Heed that Nike saying and just do it. The second thing I would say is to take calculated risks. Anytime you're doing something new, there's likely an investment to be made monetarily. You know, don't spend all your money doing that new thing, but take some calculated risks on where it makes sense to invest into your new business, your new venture. For me, when it came to doing this podcast, I had to say, well, what is the startup cost of a podcast, right? You have to get equipment to ensure that you're producing quality audio, and so every month there could be some costs. There were the one-time costs of equipment, the laptop, the webcam, the microphone, that sort of thing. If you're interested in that kind of information, feel free to reach out. I could share with you what I have. And then you've got ongoing costs. So I pay for a platform called Squadcast, so I can record with the quality that I like. And there's different packages depending on how many hours you use per month. And I also pay for constant contact to be able to connect with people who receive my newsletter on a weekly basis. And you have to be able to have a way to collect people's information and communicate with them. I pay to operate a website. So there's a few different things there. So think about what that looks like for you and invest what makes sense in the beginning. And then you can add more as you gain more experience, right? So for me now, after a year, maybe it makes sense to spend a little money on ads to promote the show more, marketing, things of that nature. So just get started. Take calculated risks. Number 3, surround yourself with the right team. The right team. So for me, I know my lane. My lane is being the connector, being the person that is the facilitator of getting the right people, curating quality content, and delivering it to you. I am not the person that you want editing and doing the back end stuff, or else it would take weeks. I don't even know, longer for an episode to come out because that's not my lane, right? So, whatever you're doing, get the right people around you, the quality people that have the skills to get things done. Right? You might have to, your team might be one person to begin with, and then you can start to outsource different things like maybe a virtual assistant, things like that. So just start small, get the right people that you trust in your corner so you can execute with confidence. And then I would say number 4 is to stay creative. One of the things that I realized was you can change things up. And I am a person who likes routine. I like to be able to do things consistently. It's just like your morning routine. If you're a person that gets up and has your cup of coffee or your protein shake or your egg whites, whatever that is, and you work out before you start your day or you meditate, you get used to that routine. So when something gets thrown off kilter, then it totally, messes you up. I think when you're doing something new, you have to disrupt the process sometimes to introduce new creative ideas. And it's because it's easy to get on autopilot. So having ways that you can get new ideas, asking for feedback, that kind of stuff keeps you fresh, keeps you innovative, keeps you trying something new. And hey, if something new doesn't work out that great, then you could just throw it away and move on to the next thing. Go back to the drawing board, but stay creative. And then I would say the fifth thing, possibly the most important thing, is to have fun. When you're doing something like a new business, you have to keep it fun, or else what is the point? Why would you agonize and be in misery every day? You want to make sure that you are enjoying what you're doing. You can laugh at the mistakes you make. You can look back on them and learn from them. You have a team that you enjoy working with. You have, you know, in my case, it's an audience. In your case, it could be consumers of a product or a service. I do coaching as well, and and relationships are so important to me. I want those relationships to be meaningful and to be fun when I interact with people that are new to listening to my show, things like that. So have fun. It's going to be hard. There's going to be days where you don't know what the heck you're doing, but that's okay. You will figure it out, because when there is a will, there is a way. So don't be discouraged if you're out there and you're wanting to try something new. All right, let's move on to some of the fun facts as we celebrate 1 year of Born Unbreakable. So I already said one of them was 81 episodes in 52 weeks. That's pretty awesome. Top 5 episodes. What episodes have been most listened to? Episode 7, Take Action and Transform Your Life with Luke Mindpower. That's my boy out of Australia. He's got an amazing listenership. Look him up, Luke Mindpower. He has a very motivating and inspiring podcast. Number 2, Episode 13, Prioritizing Your Well-Being with Melky Mizpah. She is a powerhouse teenager out of the UK who also does tremendous work, has a ton of followers on her YouTube channel. So definitely check her out. Very inspiring. Number 3, episode 57, Beat Overwhelm and Self-Doubt with Kimberly Smith out of the US. Very awesome. Who doesn't want to beat overwhelm and self-doubt? I could see why that was a popular episode. Number 4, episode 1, How to Elevate Your Peer Group and Do More in Less Time with April Garcia. She is a personal coach and mentor of mine, also out of the US, in Nevada, also where I am, but in a different part of Nevada. She's near Reno. I am in Las Vegas, like I mentioned. And then number 5, episode 2, What It Takes to Get Unstuck and Thrive with my friend Carrie Kish out of Canada. He is a super motivating coach from there. So different topics, different countries. Shout out to those 5 episodes. Speaking of countries, the top 5 countries that listen to the Born Unbreakable podcast are: number 1, the United States of America. Love to my peeps. Thank you. Number 2, Australia. My Aussie homies holding it down. Thank you. Number 3, the UK. Love my UK friends out there. So many great guests. Also more coming. So shout out, thank you to the UK. Number 4, Canada. So many great peeps out of Canada coming on the show, listening to the show. And then number 5, Singapore, reaching out to Asia. How freaking cool is that? I have listeners in 31 countries and all 7 continents. So it was super fun reading through the list. Everything from India, South Africa, the Philippines, Denmark, Very, very awesome. Reviews, 42 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 33 written reviews. I appreciate that. I tell you what, every single one. At one point, there were 0. And that's the other thing. If you're just getting started, it can feel overwhelming because you're thinking, I have nothing. I have not one follower. I have not one listener, one like, one comment. But you know what? When you get started, you have to remember that this is a one by one game. 1 turns into 2, 2 turns into 4, 4 turns into 8, and so on. Have the consistency and have the commitment, and your audience will slowly grow, or your customer base, whatever the industry is that you're in. So next, I want to do some shout outs. That is probably the most critical part of this reflection of 1 year. So first and foremost, absolutely, absolutely is Ava Media Productions. Like I said, I have a lane and I stay in it. This podcast happens because I have an incredible partner, Aaron, who we partner on everything, every business. This is just one of the ones that we do together. He is a person that I trust tremendously, and that is very difficult for me to say because I don't trust many people. I've found through the years that's something that is hard to do, and that makes life much easier to have a partner that I can count on, that I can rely on. But even more than that, has creative energy, has complementary skills to mine that make this easy. And like I said, going back to those lessons, makes it fun. Having a partner that you're aligned with, that you can have fun with, even when it comes to the hard work, has been so valuable. And I really can't thank him enough for everything that he's done for me. Uh, Number two, I mentioned her name already, April Garcia. She has a podcast called Pivot Me. She's a productivity expert. I've learned so much from her. She runs her own consulting company. She's got her podcast. She runs a mastermind, which I'm in. And she's just a light. She is somebody who has tremendous energy. She's got fantastic business sense. She's actually in Belize right now with other powerhouses, and they're getting together talking about business growth and all kinds of amazing things so that they can come back to their businesses and make them even better than they already are. Definitely follow April Garcia if you have not. Pivot Me podcast. Freaking amazing. Definitely have to thank my family, my mom and my sister. I am always coming up with new stuff to do, and they are always in my corner. They're like, "You want to do what now?" I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you. Through the years, I have always had some kind of idea of what I'm doing, and they don't even flinch, don't even blink. Whatever it is, as long as it's for the greater good and it's going to do something good in the world, they're in my corner. And that means so much to me. And then, of course, dear friends, Donna Sharkey, I want to call her out specifically because she is, your friends don't, you have those friends that are like, yeah, no, that's really good. I'm glad you're doing that. And then you have the ones that are actually there, really there through every single thing. And Donna listens to the show. She listens to episodes and texts me about them, and we talk about them. And that to me means a lot. When your family and friends actually listen to the stuff you do, that's some really awesome stuff, right? So I have to shout out Donna because she's been there from the beginning of all of my podcasting stuff. And I just certainly appreciate her as a friend, as a listener. And Tiffany James, you have been also somebody who you listen, she comments on YouTube, and I haven't gotten her on my show, but I'm going to, because she has a great book. I'll put it in the show notes, but she is an encourager, uh, and you definitely want to be hearing from her. So I'll put out more information about her so you can follow her and the great work that she does. And of course, all of you, if you're tuning in, listening, I just want to say that I appreciate you. If this is your first episode that you're listening to, if you've been with me since Bliss Beyond F.E.A.R, um, it is awesome to have support, to have people who care about the work that you're doing and are genuinely showing up uh, through it all. Because, like I said, it's not easy. Not every day is a perfect day. Some days are better than others, and it's all of you that make the biggest difference and why I keep doing what I do. There's 1,341 of you over the past year that has grown the Instagram page. Again, there was zero. A year ago, there was nothing. So, day by day, for every person that decides that they want to check it out, it does mean a lot. So I have to end with my call to action. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show. It means, every little bit goes a long way. Every time podcasters get more ratings and reviews, it does push their show to places where people can actually see it and find it. And that's the only way that people are going to know about what we do. For those of us who start organically and are doing things that, you're not connected to all kinds of big names that just get you out there and get you a big audience. You're doing this just like a grind, like anything else, right? You have to start somewhere. And so what's next for Born Unbreakable, besides continuing to bring you great content, is to get other people on the show that I want to see. So I'm just going to keep it really simple and tell you one person that I want on the show. It's Lester Holt, y'all. If there's one new thing that you learn about me today, is that I am a fan of true crime. I listen to Crime Junkie. Shout out to Ashley and Britt. I love your show. And I listen to all kinds of different crime podcasts. I watch all those kinds of shows, but Dateline is a staple. And Lester Holt just has a voice that you can listen to. So I listen to him on Dateline. I listen to him for news reporting on NBC and other things. So I'm just like such a fan for the work he's done and the career he's built. And I just appreciate that. I'd love to be able to ask him about the journalistic broadcasting space and having, your name just attached to telling such incredible stories that people remember. So if anybody knows Lester Holt, if Lester happens to, maybe you're listening at this minute, maybe for some reason you found the Born Unbreakable podcast. This is my reach out to you to say, hey, drop me a DM, slide in the DMs on Born Unbreakable on Instagram, or send an email to des@bornunbreakable.com, and I will priority schedule you in. Anyways, I don't want to keep you all for too long as you celebrate with me, but drop me a line. Let me know what your favorite episode is. Let me know what you want to hear. Maybe there's something that I haven't talked about that you're like, Des, girl, when are you going to talk about this or that? Let me know. And it's possible that I can make it happen, but you have to communicate with me. Let me know what's on your mind. Again, I appreciate you. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to celebrate with me in this moment of reflecting on a year. It's been a journey. I've loved it, and I'm so, so grateful. So tune in again next time. Remember that you are your only limit, so take action today, and I'll see ya on the next episode. Bye.